I'm not being recorded, so.
You can record on screen.
That doesn't sound.
They need to get that risk assessment.
Well, there needs to be chiefs and there needs to be.
Why is it?
Diamond ring? One that will.
2 boxes of ammo.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Right, right, you gotta click on more.
That's a good.
And then.
Click that out. Yeah.
Should have done one of that.
Yeah, good.
There we go.
But you gotta get YouTube on there. I don't think that's on there yet.
Put that on there. Sure.
Yeah, that's good.
Was a big deal.
Mike, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you guys now.
All right, thanks, Teresa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just so everybody knows, Mike, you spelled your name MLKE. For sure not, but.
Of course, it could be a capital I.
Could be.
Yeah, I can hear you folks. Yeah, I can hear you guys now.
Turn your phone off or something, Mike, it's echoing.
It's the way that happens to me sometimes when I log in.
Yeah, I can hear you folks. Yeah, I can hear you guys now. Turn your phone off or something, Mike. It's echoing.
Wait.
I mean, it was only gonna take half an hour.
Hopefully.
So yeah, turn and look in this way.
It's still getting back to you, then it's from Mike. Good job.
Okay, well, I guess. Where were we at?
It said
don't even know.
vehicles, and is it something we should stop, like dropping off kids at school? Would that make a difference?
I think you'd ask what other counties do.
Yeah.
I would say it's a range, and it is a decision based upon a lot of different factors, but I've seen them do it a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
I do want to add to, and I think this is pretty obvious, but, for people who are not a county employee or who would participate in emergency operations, there should never be somebody like that in an emergency vehicle in an emergency situation.
Well, in fact, I think our SOPs, department SOPs on fire departments, and I think. And also with EMS, it would be against the SOPs to have somebody during, natural response, emergency response.
The most common situation that I see with our counties is typically it's the sheriff's department that has take home vehicles and they have their families in the car a lot of times. And that is a common practice. I mean, we, with the reduced liability, we try to, we prefer not to do that, but it's part of what they normally do. And a lot of times it's part of their benefit package and things like that. So, it's, we accept that risk, but it just that the county has to understand it, increase the possibility of injuries, which might cause, potential liability.
You raise a good point, because over the years, we've debated this every few years about also the police officers, because somebody sees one of our cars blasting down the highway in some faraway town, and then a resident of the county, then they're questioning, well, were they there for training or were they there shopping at the mall or whatever, and it's hard to, to monitor that.
Yeah, usually and again, it's my experience that the sheriffs usually have some, depending on the sheriff, but they usually have some controls over that as far as if they go out of county or if they go on a training, they go to Indianapolis for a training or something like that, that's typically allowable, but there usually is restrictions. I'm not 100% sure what's here right now, but in other counties, they do.
Well, the other challenge we had is we used to have a couple of officers that lived a couple of counties away. Still, okay, so I don't know, is that one of the things you wanted to question too, if that's changed?
I mean, if we do, but like you'd mentioned it, the sheriff's got their own merit board and stuff that control that. I mean, we could, of course, we can override it. I mean, if there's been a concern or any wrecks or something, yeah, I mean, we definitely need to address it.
Sure.
I mean, what's our latest big collateral loss? I mean, where are we falling short these days?
Well, I would say auto is definitely suffering right now. We've had a lot of auto claims in the past 2 years, for sure. So
Obviously at fault.
some at fault, some not at fault. had some with other counties here just recently, which, you know, haven't been at our fault, but it, you know, it still comes back to a claim sometimes on your policy. And, you know, in certain situations, when you're out of vehicle that was a functioning vehicle and now you have to go replace with something that costs a lot more. I mean, it's still costing the county money when these claims are happening, even if they're not at fault sometimes, so.
Aside from reducing the amount of claims, are there, I think what Todd was getting at, are there any things we can add to help reduce the premium?
Or to be proactive.
Sure.
For our next one.
Well, I think one of the things that we were gonna discuss was the safety committee. I think that, you know, if we could get kind of, you know, and we were, I know Carrie was coming to each and every meeting. I couldn't come to every meeting, but I came to a lot of them, and we're the ones that doing a lot of the, you know, we were coming here doing a lot of trainings and things like that. And we haven't had too many for a while, so what we want to do is try to get that started back up again. And one of the things that we do a lot of is driver safety, and we actually have I know that Rachel's, the highway departments use our driving simulator, the fire departments have used our driving simulator. But we also have classroom, we have actually behind the wheel stuff, so we have a lot of resources I think we can help you with. But I think one of the main things would be is that I would recommend is get the safety committee back up running and get some things scheduled. But one of those emphasis would be on driver safety and driving. And, you know, we can't prevent every accident, but I think we can make some inroads into reducing the amount of claims that you have. And that's nothing but good for the county, because, you know, we want to get that loss ratio down as far as we can, because obviously we don't want you paying more insurance premiums than you absolutely have to.
Yeah.
So, because we, you know, we want the losses to be low. So.
And we've reviewed this several times. I mean, the thought is the ones that deploy from home, which would be highway department, especially leadership. You know, their job starts when they step foot out of their door. EMA, same thing, like they could deploy in the middle of the night from home.
Sure.
And, you know, it's hard to respond to emergency incident. Have to go pick a vehicle up and come back. The same with leadership from EMS, you know, so some of those are, you know, whereas, you know, in the past, we have made some people leave their cars here that weren't, you know, didn't have that significant.
I think take home vehicles is a part of county government. I mean, I think that, you know, that's something, especially as you mentioned with emergency vehicles, with EMS especially, and sheriff's departments, you know, they need to respond sometimes even when they're off duty. So I mean, it's nice to have that vehicle home, and so we understand that. I mean, we're pretty specialized. All we do is local government, so we deal with this all over the state. So I don't disagree with you that that's something that
Interrupt
should be
you, but just
allowed.
on that line real quick, one more thing. The one thing is, in our current policy, it does say that the people that have vehicles aren't supposed to report their mileage though. So I don't, who's the keeper of that? Does the auditor's office keep that, or?
Nobody ever reported anything.
Because by actuality, the miles from your home to here should be reported, should be taxed on.
Well,
Actually.
and I mean, just in general, just so we're covered because of that, regardless of whether they put it on their taxes, but you're right, but it is in our policy though. I'm just saying, like, you know, if somebody went through and audited whether we're following county policy, you know, do we keep that in there? But because it's in there right now.
Well, I think by the IRS rules, if somebody looked at the IRS rules, I'm almost positive there's a part in there that those personal miles are taxed, and then you're sent another form, not a 1099, some type of IRS form, where you're taxed on the value of that drive back and forth.
Yeah, unless you're deployed from home for your job though. I think that those are the exceptions. That's when we left it up to some people.
No, even though I had take-home vehicles by a company, I paid, even if I had to leave.
You are exactly right. When I was here before, I had to keep track of their phone use, their car use, and we had to tax them all that. I asked the girls upstairs if they were still doing that, and they said Kay stopped it.
Yeah, because I don't remember it happened in here, you know, lately in the last 4, 5, 6 years, but
It used to be, we used to have to send out 1099s on that.
I'm surprised the State Board of Accounts doesn't.
Well, we started doing it after the IRS came in and
Yeah.
did an audit. But now they don't do it anymore.
So I have a question. We know that whenever there's an accident, they always go for the person with the deepest pocket. are there tools that we can put into these trucks and these vehicles that can alert you to the driving habits of our employees? Is that something I know in the trucks? I know we have abilities to know what's going on. And surely you do too. Is that the course that we need to take, that, you know, perhaps speeding might be one thing? Reckless driving, I don't know, I'm just asking.
Well, I mean, I think we would definitely take that into consideration, like the premium and things like that, if you were to install some kind of like. Electronic, you know, I mean, it sounds like I know that the county highway has GPS, and so, I mean, and that's very helpful in a number of different ways, but nevertheless, I mean, if you can. Track employees driving habits, and if they have bad habits, and we can try to correct those, and we have data to prove that, then that would be very helpful and something we would take into consideration on.
Is that something that we could look at?
Sure, absolutely.
There is cameras that go both
Yeah.
ways, like Bruce was saying, catches the driver, their face, everything. And so many seconds back after the rest,
Which,
which is a different.
that's what the highway,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There is a take-home vehicle, and we have take-home vehicle policy. You guys need to review that ordinance. When I first started as auditor, they were doing a deduction, but in that, and it did stop at the end of, like, right before I came in. But in that take-home vehicle policy, there's exceptions. So like if you have a fuel tank in the back, so, highway department pickups, we all have fuel tanks in the back. Extra tanks, you know, in back, then we weren't taxed on it. It was more for like, you know, planning commission that takes your vehicles home that don't have, you know, accessories on it. So that you guys need to read the ordinance and resolution for the take-home vehicle policy. And yes, the highway department has cameras that face out and face toward the cab. But with that, they only save 60 minutes. So we have to, if something happens, we gotta get that camera footage right away. But it doesn't record all the time. It's when something's detected, harsh braking. We have rollover, we have running through a stop sign. If you're on your phone, I mean, that camera system.
You do have that?
All of that.
Forward in the front toward the driver.
Yeah, toward the driver
Okay.
and then.
Okay, I didn't know we had the, I knew we put the new stuff.
Yeah,
But you don't have enough memory that you can actually, see
it can't
trends in
record
driving.
weeks of it, no.
yeah, because it's not stored anywhere, it's just on an SD card or something on the
Yeah,
camera.
yeah, and
Yeah.
the rear was too expensive, so we couldn't get the rear, but we do pay $1,800 a month to have that.
So $1,800 a month, is that worth the cost savings we're gonna see from insurance or no?
I would think it certainly could be.
Well, I'll just say something about the GPS, information on your trucks. We've accessed that several times in claims and has been helpful in litigating claims or settling claims. Because we can either prove or disprove that a vehicle was in the area where we have a claim, property damage incident. So, you know, we do ask for that from the, Rachel's department quite often when there's been a claim. So,
Especially windshield damage, because we get,
Yeah.
I'm not saying just Starke County, but as a general rule, all our counties, we see awful lot of claims where people are alleging that the rocks came off the truck and damaged their windshield or paint. And if we can, because a lot of times they mistake our county vehicle for like a private sector construction truck.
Yeah.
And so we can, by the GPS, we can prove where our vehicle was, and if it wasn't there at the time they're claiming, then that helps us, you know, dispute the claim, if, you know, and prove that we didn't do anything incorrectly, so.
I mean, you know, it'd be good to spend a penny to save a nickel.
Mhm.
And as far as the vehicles, this is completely the commissioners, this is not the council's deal, our only deal is the money. I mean, if we could save money possibly by the vehicles that are on emergency status being taken home. I mean, there's several vehicles that, I don't know why they drive them home, they're not gonna ever get called out.
Mhm.
And all we're doing is spending money on gas, and the way budgets are gonna get. You know, we may have to start cutting somewhere,
Yeah.
there may be, I don't know.
Well, I will say that the trainings and things that we'll do to help you there's no cost to any of that. This comes along with the program. So there's, you know, said that the training aspect of it will not cost the county anything. So it comes through the premium you're already paying.
So do you know about the smart card?
Smart car?
Yeah, smart card.
Oh, card, no.
it's an app, which I'm supposed to use it, but I don't. You start out every day and you're listing the hazards that you might face that day and what you're gonna do to avoid that. Like the highway, theirs would be, okay, I'm gonna be driving, I'm gonna be in traffic. So what am I gonna do to protect myself? So obviously you'll check hard hat, vest, safety shoes, glasses, cones, signs. And that's part of my company's thing for our insurance. I mean, it takes less than 2 minutes, sure, but I'm a bad employee. You're supposed to do it, you're supposed to do it every day. And then it goes to somebody, and then obviously if something happens, I mean, it's like you're taking responsibility for your own stuff. So if during the day, you get a stick in your eye or something, well, it says here you're gonna, that was part of the hazard and you didn't have your safe glasses on. So.
Very good, that's good.
It's called Starke card.
Used to be poison ivy.
It's not a bad idea, Todd, but, a lot of the drivers still have flip phones.
Well, you can do, it can be done on the computer in the office. It doesn't have to be done through a phone. It can be done on any laptop or any workstation. It takes just a couple of minutes.
Well, that's not a bad idea. One of the things that I did at our firehouse when I was in the fire department is like in the bathroom and doorways, I would have, things in it posted there. Maybe that's one way too, just have safety checklists posted around the facility.
We got safety posters everywhere.
So Rachel, we have, out at the farm, we had a situation 3 years ago going into Claypool. A Kosciuszko County truck lost the outside dual and it had come up over the top of our semi. So the question is this: do your drivers on a daily basis walk those vehicles?
Yes, they have a walk around on their daily when they put their odometer readings, so, I mean, there's your odometer readings.
Looking for rusty lug
They put
nuts?
their odometer readings, the equipment that they're driving, what they're doing for the day, each hour they break it down, and then on the back of that daily is their walk around. They have to check mark all the things that they have to do with their walk around, so they sign it and date it stating that they did do their walk around.
So just a question for, this would be their deal, but once again, I'm thinking about money because that's all I think about. Obviously, texting and driving, even talking on the phone is against the law. We all know that. Everything's supposed to be hands-free. Okay, so would it be still the county any good to have a policy as such, even though it's the law, still have it the policy? And I don't know if the county could have a point system, or you could have something where, okay, you have done that 2 times. Okay, you've lost your driving license. I mean, something like that, would that show the county being proactive?
Absolutely, and then, like in your hiring process, if you can, check motor vehicle records, things like that, prior to hire. If part of the essential job functions of that job is gonna be driving.
Beyond for you.
So, you don't wanna hire a bad driver if you can avoid it, so those are some things that we can suggest that you do. So.
Hey, Mark, that brings you a question from me. How do we get access to driving records, like daily
Well,
or quarterly or yearly?
I mean, you
Can
can.
you guys pull
We can't, because of privacy laws, we cannot do that, but there's companies that can do it, but also I think you can go through the Bureau of Motor Vehicles and do that too, so.
them as an employer? You
Yeah.
can go through.
I think anybody can, but it's pretty generic.
Yeah.
You can also, just like a quick, I mean, we use it in our office, it's just pull my case. And that's gonna show
Yeah.
tickets and violations. So, I mean, you can do that in about 30 seconds. So if you have the person's name and birth date. So,
That.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say like to add to the cell phone usage policy is possibly having that signed once a year by your employees, along with the seatbelt usage statement saying that we are using our seatbelts each and every time that we get in and out of a vehicle.
I believe the cell phone, it's a $1,500 fine by the state if they get caught. And per driver and then the company, like, if we get caught by the state, the county can be charged $1,500 and the driver. It was a state law, but I don't know if it is right now.
Like I said, right there.
Yeah.
And these are things like that we're talking about that we do address or had addressed in the safety committee meetings. In the past, and Mark always addresses in the different safety trainings that we host. So again, I think a lot of these things that we're talking about today can be discussed and resolved and procedures put into place through the safety committee working together, but you are going to have to get a strong safety committee that, you know, is willing to put in that work to be serious about it. We're willing to do whatever we can to facilitate the trainings. I tried to come to the safety committee meetings just, you know, to be here to bring things back to Mark that you wanted to see. But ultimately, it's the county safety committee. We're just a resource for you to help with our part of the picture, the insurance part of it. So, you know, there's many other issues that the safety committee can talk about and take care of that have nothing to do with the insurance. We're just one little piece of it. So
They're a big piece of it.
we are, and
Let's be realistic.
I mean, I can show you data from the time when I took on your account. And we implemented the safety committee, and it was a good safety committee for many years. We were very proud of the safety committee here, and I mean, we explained it to many other counties how we worked it. So 1 month would be a safety committee meeting with the committee members. The next month would be a training of some sort of whatever the department heads or safety committee members wanted to see. And we did that alternately all through the year. And I can show you the data that shows that your workers' comp was terrible. And we had reduced that workers' comp by half.
Wow.
I mean, it was a substantial savings. And a lot of that, you know, also goes back to the leadership and the department heads also. But, you know, just reducing any claim makes a difference. And so if you can have these thoughts in the forefront of your employees' thoughts every day when they're coming to work, it makes a difference.
Because obviously, it's a lot more than just driving.
Oh, for
I mean,
sure.
you've got office safety, you know, door open, two top drawers of filing cabinets and cords. I mean, there's so much to it that all falls into it, right?
So what we used to do on the safety committee is we'd look at our losses on a monthly basis, and we would set the trainings for what the losses were.
Yep.
To educate the employees to reduce that from happening. So that's how we set what trainings there used to be. Mark would provide us with a packet at the first of the year with all the updated trainings and so forth that was available through Bliss McKnight. And we would keep that. And then as we went through the year, as we seen, whether it was a truck accident, poison ivy, you name it, that's how we set our trainings to educate the employees on the losses.
Well, I've been here 4 years and I never knew there ever to be a safety committee in the
Me
4 years
either.
I've been here.
Yeah.
Well, there used to be.
There used to be when I was here before.
That was 12 years ago.
You know, that was 14 years ago.
Well, safety trainings, that's different than,
Yeah, yeah.
this is different than this. I know you do, Jim, for
The
sure.
safety committee was super active and wonderful. COVID affected it, of course, like everything,
That's what
because
comes in.
employees weren't here and people weren't getting together. So that was kind of where we started
That
to
would be
see
the 4 or 5 years ago.
started to see it
Yeah.
flip.
23,
Well, 21 is when
Yeah.
COVID really,
And then,
23 is when we were still having.
yeah, we were. And
I never knew there was ever one, ever,
Yeah.
never heard, just, first I ever heard about it was about a month ago.
Yeah, and yeah, you're right.
I was chair.
I actually saw it today.
chair
So
of the
over this
safety
past
committee.
year, and I know you've had a lot of changes inside of the
Yeah, I was chair for
2024 is when we saw that, you know, we had some trainings and they just kept getting canceled. So, you know, we were seeing that downward trend of, hey, we need to get a handle on this because we don't want to see that happen.
Yeah,
So,
we've done one this year and that was out with
Highway.
Rachel at the highway department. We did snowplow training for them. That's been it this year.
Yeah, we had that Mike Williams sent out the department heads who would be interested even in their department for a safety,
Yeah.
and we need to know.
Yes.
When's the next department head meeting, Michael?
First Thursday in April. I think it's April 2nd.
yeah, and we're scheduled to come that day again to discuss the safety committee as well. So Mark has brought with him the list of trainings that he has, just the in-person trainings. There's also video trainings, which Rachel had requested. I don't know if she's used any of them, but there's a whole video library that you can request. All there is a login. You have to show that they logged, it records their login so that you can see that they attended.
That's what we do.
So all of this is available as resources to you. And so, we're happy to facilitate whatever it is that you ask. So.
Yeah, and we do, and I just want to emphasize too, is as a part of our service is not just training. We say, for example, like if you want to get involved in some kind of a program, like with your parks or something like that, we would look at it and help you decide what we might do to mitigate the risk of doing that particular activity. A lot of times we look at contracts that you might have or some different clauses in the contract, like what we call the indemnification, hold harmless, the insurance requirements, things like that. So we try to be, like I said, a resource to you. So we invite you to call, feel free to call us if you get a hold of Carrie directly, and she can get a hold of us, and we'll be glad to help in any way we can.
I remember when Bill was running those. Because I remember in the EMS, we would have back strains. That was our big thing in EMS.
Highway poison.
Highway was poison ivy, and unfortunately for the police officers, they had wrecked a couple of vehicles. So going back to what we have now, just to kind of enlighten us, because I haven't looked at the numbers lately. Do we have something that's consistently high, like deer hits, or are all the things just random that we're having vehicle accident? I just like to know, like, what's happening these days, like what's going on?
We had a lot of deer claims this year.
So
Sheriff's Department.
is that usually speed that is a factor in that, or what, how can you minimize deer hits?
Well, that's if you can come up with a way to do that, you'll be a gazillionaire, believe me. The insurance industry would love you.
Yeah.
Because that's something we adjust on all the time. We classify it as what we call a comprehensive.
Well, that's what I was gonna go next. So, because like on a personal automobile, like that's comprehensive, so I guess if most of it's deer hits, I see like risk wise, or I should say premium wise. Does that affect us though, just as much as any other accident when it's a county policy?
It does in both personal and commercial nowadays.
Oh,
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what you call it, it's still an accident.
It's considered a not at fault accident,
Right.
but it's still considered a loss.
Yeah, you're gonna
And
have,
it's going against your experience.
you have physical damage to the vehicle, so that's obviously a loss that we're gonna incur. So.
is there anything that falls under the old comprehensive, like broken windshield, even broken windshields go against you too?
Yes, because we do underwrite a little bit differently than like what your personal auto would be. It's really just, what limits you choose, what deductibles you set, and then how much have you paid in claims. And I mean, that's really the two big factors that go into the price. I do want to add though, municipal auto claims have gone up 80% in the last 3 years. So
I mean, nationwide.
yeah, well, so we just do Illinois and Indiana.
Okay.
I'm speaking for our internal data,
Okay.
but like we pay 80% more than we did 3 years ago.
Wow.
And I don't even have a number pre-COVID. So, you as a counties have auto accidents. They hit deer. They're in, it's just a factor. But unfortunately, the cost to repair and the cost to buy new vehicles is just so much higher now. And that's what you're feeling.
And that's where that 80% probably is, maybe only 20% maybe in reality. More accidents, but the
Right.
losses are because of.
Maybe not as much
Which really
frequency,
doesn't
but
matter.
just the severity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter.
Well, my concern with council more here though is when we did the safety committee before, we were getting ready to be canceled and forced to go to the exchange for insurance,
For the
and
workers'
beg for, somebody to take us. Are we approaching that at this point again to where we're at risk for that?
Not on your workers' comp. Your workers' comp looks good right now.
Okay.
So knock on something. The claims experience there is doing well, so that's a very good plus. Bliss McKnight, we've had the discussion, just, informally, I guess I'd say, that they have no intention of not renewing your account in September. That is not their intention. But the premium could reflect some of the, severity of losses that we've had. So, we want to get a handle on that.
Yeah.
For the.
Okay, my second question is
Quickly.
back at this time, and I don't know if others, but Bill may remember this, maybe Rachel. One of the things we talked about too, and I don't know the technical wording now today on this, but let's say, for example, a county has an insurance policy and somebody knocks the mirror off of an ambulance, we can get it fixed for $500. Rather than claim it, we self-insure on some of that.
Yeah.
Are we doing that now, or are we just claiming every little thing that happens? Because like a $500 claim could cause us to go up 10,000 and, you know.
Right now, the county carries $1,000 deductible on comprehensive and $1,000 deductible on collision. So anything less than that, you know, obviously isn't being reported, or we would say, you know, we have this deductible, we're not gonna report it as a claim. If it was reported to me, I would not report that to Elizabeth Knight. However, I think that will be something that we'll need to consider at renewal, is raising
the
those
deductible
deductibles at this point. You've had 1,000 for many years. And we're seeing this in all sectors, not just governmental entities, but all commercial accounts and even down to personal lines accounts. Smaller deductibles don't make.
I don't
sense
even have
anymore.
$1,000 on my vehicle.
Yeah,
I gotta report that.
so I think it'll definitely be time to raise them.
Even though we have the deductibles, even though we can self-insure ourselves, there still has to be a way for us to monitor those vehicles. Because in last year, we had damage to a vehicle that was never reported, and that you as an insurer ought to know that also.
We want claims reported immediately. So you know, we can go back and investigate claims at a later time if we need to, and then determine whether there will be coverage, you know, for the claim that occurred in the past. But we have stressed over the years with the county, we want all claims reported at the time of the claim. So if it ends up not being a claim, we can withdraw it. It's not a problem. But we would rather have it reported immediately and have the time to be able to investigate properly at that time.
And have the knowledge of it.
So then if it is under 1,000 and we report to you and then we obviously we're gonna take care of ourselves, that is not gonna reflect back on us, right? Because
No.
it will not be a monetary loss, right?
Right, that's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Just, I would say you just have to be a little careful, especially like on liability claims with trying to self-insure on any of those, because you know, you might potentially endanger our ability to defend the claim by doing that. So if it gets into something more than say, for example, what you're willing to pay, then it comes to us and they say, well, you never reported it, then it might be a problem.
I'm thinking more about a mirror getting broke off a truck by a.
And that's perfectly understandable.
Or something like that.
I think is a common one.
Yeah.
Back again.
You still want that recorded. And then you got,
Physical damage claims, if you're gonna take care of them yourself, if it's, you know, a threshold that the county sets, you know, unless it's over this amount, we're not gonna report that to carry on proper or physical damage, which means damage to our vehicles only. I think, you know, you wouldn't have to report it to me if it was this small
that's what I'm
amount.
asking, like,
Whatever
they're
that is.
saying
But if
a
there's-
mirror.
If there's any involvement with any persons or any other type of property, we want it reported
Yeah.
immediately. We had a simple claim where somebody claimed just recently that the snowplow pushed them off the road. And that was a perfect example. We could have very easily paid the tow claim to get that vehicle off the road, but we don't know what could possibly come from that later.
Exactly.
So we reported that to the company because that gives the adjuster the opportunity to contact that claimant, get all of the details from both sides, the driver and the claimant, and settle that claim properly. So, you know.
You bump into somebody and then they're gonna have passengers and everybody's gonna claim bodily injury. And so, it really gets messy. So you gotta be real careful about, I'm just recommending you be real careful about that. But if you feel like mirrors and things that you've mentioned, I'm sure that's not a problem.
But
It doesn't
oftentimes-
involve any other parties.
Oftentimes, the liability doesn't end with just the car that run off the road. You might have property damage done to a fence or so on and so forth.
Exactly.
And so many times I've seen wreckers come in and pull things out and didn't give two hoots about the personal property damage.
Sure.
And I don't want to be guilty of that.
You may want to put it in your policy that, you know, any damage to the vehicle or anything has to be reported immediately. I mean, if you want to, you know, put it into your policy or, you know, that you have it along with your seat belts and other things we've already talked about. You know, as far as driving policy, you know, no distracted driving, no use of cell phones, you know, at least it has to be hands-free. Like we kind of follow state law on that, but But put it in policy and have them, the employees sign off on it gives it more, gives you more of the ability to be able, if you, again, if you deem necessary to discipline or terminate employees for not following the.
3 strikes and you're out or
policy.
something. I guess the other thing though, does, as far as claims go, if somebody's on their cell phone, has an accident, and we have a policy in place and they signed off, it doesn't help our liability though, right? I mean, we
No.
still have to pay out.
Yeah. Some vehicles do have what's called a data recorder in them. It's like a black box in an airplane. So in some severe cases where there's bodily injury involved and and where it gets into litigation, a lot of times we'll pull that and that'll tell us, that gives us a lot of information on speed of the vehicle, whether or not the driver was using his seatbelt, how fast were they going, were they braking at the time, and things like that. So, but anyway, any kind of electronics which would help us, determine what actually transpired would be very helpful to our claims people, so.
I guess though, and from our fact finding though, so what we're deciding though, or what you're telling us, there's nothing we can implement though to reduce our premium as far as any of those policies. I mean, obviously it'll reduce our risk of the claims, but there isn't anything we can.
There's no recommendations you could make to us to lower our premiums.
Except for raising the.
I mean, risk equals increased premiums to me. I mean, if we're taking an undue risk, there's that possibility of increased premiums, right? There's enough to say, whoa.
But I feel very strongly, I mean, I've been doing this almost 40 years and I do I'm an emergency vehicle operations instructor through the law enforcement academy, and we've been teaching driver safety all over the state with local governments. But I think the main thing is this: implement policy procedures, make sure that, to enforce the rules, and then also provide training. And I think those are 2 things that, and hopefully when you do that, that's going to have the end result is you're going to reduce your claims. And that's why we do those things, because we've proven through the years that we can get these things under control, but it's good, but it doesn't happen overnight. It's something that, we have to get in and determine, and if we have somebody that's having continual accidents, a certain employee, then maybe we need to retrain or do something with that employee. I'm not saying terminate or anything like that. I'm just saying retrain or do something that might help that driver avoid accidents in the future.
Does anybody on the county government know, do we keep track of where deer hits are at to see if we need to make deer crossing signs, those up, everything like that? Do we ever record any data like that?
We do, Dave. We keep track of it all.
How do counties normally determine where a deer crossing is?
Well, deer don't read the sign either.
Yeah,
No, I mean, there are places like if you go, what would that be, west on 8? They cross all the time right there. And there are certain places, especially in farm country, because of where they like to eat, where they like to bed, things like that. Sometimes they like some people score better than others, whatever. But I was just curious, like, that might help everybody in the county. But
that might be
maybe
the criteria.
I know the state does that. The
Yeah.
state keeps control of it.
550 east, like 500. That is a major deer crossing. No matter what time it is, they come to the, especially early in the morning.
We even see deer strikes in urban areas, man, not just in the counties. We see our cities or municipalities hitting deer, so.
We live 3 blocks from here. We had a deer on our front porch. Broke the door, the window, bled on the carpet.
They're not sure you might.
I know, but I'm just saying, yeah, that's the same day.
Yeah, the deer went in the subway up here in Troy.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So what I'm saying is it does happen here in town. Not saying you don't cover me, I know that.
So I think we'll be here on April 2nd. And we can leave some packets today as well, but I don't know if you plan on kind of having somebody in place then to head that safety committee at that meeting, or what your thoughts are on that.
Who's even on it?
It's and usually one department head is over it, another department head is secretary, like Bill was the chairman, and then I as auditor was the secretary. And then a member of the commission was there, a member of.
So I sat on it.
So one of you guys or Mike or somebody are gonna come to that next that next meeting.
One of the two, yeah, me and Mike told you, that you're
Yeah.
gonna, we'll talk to the
So, yeah,
three,
you guys.
we'll start taking turns.
Because, well, three of us came, which is fine, which we
Right.
can,
Mhm.
but some of the things we talked about, you know, I just said that's not really our.
Mhm.
You guys, we can't make a decision, but.
I'm
we
gonna
want
Mike
to
talk
answer.
to Charlie, yeah, the three of us
Okay.
will talk, one of
Okay.
us try to be there every time.
Have to decide who, which department head's gonna chair it.
Yeah. So good.
Sounds like Rachel's wanting to do that.
That's fast.
What? Yeah, I would be good. Definitely, because full insurance deal.
Design.
Still work.
Policy on the right.
Don't worry about what I do, okay? I'm gonna be local for the next 9 months, so I'm close month.
Yeah. Yeah, Bill, if you wanna kind of. Charge of it, I mean, Todd, if you.
I would be, I'm.
Yeah, I will.
That's fine.
Either of us or take turns, whatever. Yeah, at least get it started, get it running good and so forth. I mean, one of the good things is Mark works with you on a daily basis. He's always available by email or phone. We went through a lot of things last time. Just great communication and working back and forth.
They're covered under the skin.
10 a.m.
So they're not paying any drugs. I mean, that doesn't change.
No, because that.
Yeah.
If you take a chair, we keep stuff in my community, at least get
Yeah.
So if.
committee together before we do.
Expectations from the hospital back to home, courtesy transport. Absolutely fine, right? I mean, there's no-
Sure, I mean, because
Yeah.
the sheriff department does.
Take it.
I'm just getting the services.
Thank you.
I said, feel free to contact us. if you have any issues. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see you.
Whatever.
Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you.
You already know, like, what's involved in the. If you ever do have an accident, just don't admit us. Anything.
Next month.
Obviously, just let them go through their normal process. Do you remember the accident when first came out? I don't know.
So
It was a kid that was nine on the East Coast. And had- Actually.
I just.
Says, do not will be. And it was also a great sign that. Right. So you ran a stop sign.
I was thinking you scared them and then we down.
Sure.
Kids.
Yeah, really?
I don't know enough about it.
Just like today, I was on the board, running the third lane, there's 4 lanes. The left 2 lanes are absolutely a no. I got a ticket.
And every district.
But I always realized the left lane was no good,
exception.
because I was on 18. I didn't either. So
Mike Lee would be
Speed limit.
minutes from the joint meetings from March 7th. Did you get to look at it?
I do.
We got to sign it.
Yeah, approve them and. No, so is there a motion to approve these? I'll second, all those in favor? Thank you to sign it.
Are we supposed to sign that?
Which is fine.
So we need to run the minutes. We weren't even.
No, you weren't a quorum, but I would like for you to sign if you were here. I'm not gonna put a motion that you guys approve the minutes or anything.
We got it.
I was here.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sorry.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Hi.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you again. Take care. That time is.
We got it.
All right, I'll come to Judson. Just tell me when you're free.
Just the ones over here,
That'll actually work.
just the three.
After
You might have to borrow your ink stick.
I'll go to lunch or I'll give you my.
Is this one I was present on?
You were on Zoom.
I can still sign it when I'm on Zoom.
You can't, yeah.
Does, any department heads or anything got anything for us? Tom, do you have anything? Okay. Motion adjourned. Second.
Let's watch it. Hey,
Yeah, I was gonna talk to her, but.
So.
See, but.
Tomorrow night.
I don't know.
Any of those.
Okay, they're gonna do six.
And it's got a text message from Cassie saying I didn't. And I know that.